Let me tell you what they don't want you to know. You're not tired, you're untrained. You're not weak, you're undisciplined. You're not stuck, you're scared. And that fear, it's got a name. It's the weak man inside you, and he's been running your life, making your decisions, stealing your mornings, and turning your dreams into excuses. But I'm here to declare war. Not against the world, against that voice that says I can't. Because I stood in front of the US government, I faced the hardest punchers God ever made. I lost everything and won it back 3 times. You know how? I learned to beat the one opponent nobody's talking about, the one who knows all your weaknesses, all your fears, all your secrets, the one inside your own chest. Today, that ends. Today, you learn what I learned in the dark. Your greatest opponent is waiting, and he lives inside you. By the time you finish listening to me, you're going to understand something that changed my life, something they can't teach in no gym, no school, nowhere. The only opponent that ever really defeated me was me. And the day I understood that was the day I became truly unbeatable. See, you feel stuck right now. Like you're living below what you know you're capable of. You make promises to yourself you don't keep. You set alarms you don't honor. You got dreams that keep shrinking instead of growing. And every day that weak man inside whispers just a little bit louder. Tomorrow, when it's easier, when you're ready. But here's the truth. They don't tell you you ain't never gonna feel ready. The conditions ain't never gonna be perfect. That's the lie the weak man sells. He wants you comfortable. He wants you safe. He wants you small. Now, people know me as a fighter, 3-time heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, the greatest. But you know what fight I'm most proud of? The one nobody saw. The morning runs when I wanted to quit. The nights I laid off pleasure when my body screamed for it. The moment I stood in front of the government and my career died, but the weak man didn't win. I faced the U.S. Supreme Court. I faced Sonny Liston. I faced George Foreman. But every single one of those victories started years earlier, in the dark, alone. Defeating that voice that said, you can't. Right now, the weak man is winning in your life. He's got you hitting snooze. He's got you breaking promises to yourself. He's got you comfortable in a life you know ain't big enough for who you really are. But by the end of this, you're going to have the same weapon I used. Not fancy psychology, not some new technique. The ancient truth that champions aren't made in gyms, they're made in the lonely hours before dawn when the weak man is strongest and you decide to be stronger. I ain't going to give you comfort. I ain't going to tell you it's easy or you just need to believe in yourself. That's weak man. Talk makes you feel good but changes nothing. I'm going to give you what I learned through blood, sweat, exile, and victory. How to train your will until it's stronger than your feelings. How to build discipline when you got none. How to win the war inside so the wars outside can't touch you. Let me take you somewhere. Fighter's Heaven, that's my training camp in the Pocono Mountains. Middle of winter, 5 a.m, darker than Sonny Liston's heart. I'm supposed to run 3 miles up this mountain. Every fighter I know runs 3 miles. But I got a secret. I don't start counting until it hurts. See, I learned something most people never understand. The training don't begin until the pain begins. Anybody can run when they feel good. Anybody can work when they're motivated. The weak man inside you, he'll work when conditions are perfect. But champions are made when you keep going after every fiber says stop. So I run that 3 miles. But now I'm tired. Really tired. And that's when the weak man shows up. He don't come when you're fresh, he comes when you're exhausted. He says you did enough, you're already the greatest. Who's gonna know? But I learned the difference between good and great is what you do when nobody's watching. So I don't stop at 3. I run until I almost pass out. I run until my legs feel like they're gonna fall off. Because I'm not training my legs, I'm training my will. I'm teaching the weak man inside me that he don't run this body, I do. Listen, when I'm doing my exercises, I don't start counting till I start painting. And the minute I start painting, I keep pushing under that pain. Then the next day, After I rest, it might take 20 sit-ups instead of 10 to give me a cramp. Later, it might take 30. But if I tried to do 30 the first day, I'd break my back. So it's conditioning. I'm conditioning my will. I'm conditioning my mind to work when my body says quit. Because I knew something. When I get in that ring for 15 rounds, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to be winded, I'm going to want to quit. But if I've trained myself to work under that tiredness, then when the 15th round comes and my opponent is fresh and I'm exhausted, I'm still dangerous. Why? Because I've been here before. Not in the ring on that mountain at 5 a.m. when nobody was watching. That's where I built the strength to be great when it mattered. Now let me take you to another moment. April 28th, 1967, Houston, Texas. The day they called me for the draft. The day I had to choose between my faith and my career. You think the government was my opponent that day? Nah. My opponent was the voice inside saying, just do it. Just step forward. You can still be Muslim. You can still pray. Nobody has to know what's in your heart. You'll lose everything if you don't. That's the weak man. He sounds reasonable. He sounds wise. He dresses up cowardice and calls it strategy. But I'd been training for that moment every morning at 5 a.m. Every time I ran when I wanted to sleep. Every time I controlled my appetite when I wanted to eat. Every time I sacrificed comfort for principle. I was building the strength I needed for this moment. So when that officer said, Cassius Clay, step forward, I stood still. Not because I wasn't afraid, I was terrified. But I'd beaten the weak man inside me so many times in small moments that when the big moment came, he didn't have no power over me. They took my title, they took my prime years, 3.5 years, right in the middle of my peak. They took my money, they tried to take my spirit, but they couldn't take what I'd built inside me, that place where the weak man don't live no more. See, that decision wasn't made that day in Houston. That decision was made every morning. I chose discipline over desire. Every night I chose principle over pleasure. Every moment I told the weak man no when he wanted me to compromise. That's where real decisions are made, not in the big moments, but in the small ones that build up to them. And here's what I learned. The weak man will use fear. He'll paint pictures of everything you'll lose. He'll show you worst-case scenarios. He'll make surrender look like wisdom. But I knew something he didn't. I know where I'm going and I know the truth, and I don't have to be what you want me to be. That's freedom. That's power. That's what happens when you defeat the weak man inside you. Now let me take you to Africa. Zaire, October 30th, 1974. The rumble in the jungle. George Foreman across that ring, the hardest puncher God ever made. 25 straight knockouts. Never been hurt. Never been behind in a single round. They called him the monster. And he looked like one too. Everybody got a strategy for me. Dance, Ali, move, stay away from his power. Use your speed. But here's what I knew. At 32 years old, after 3.5 years stolen from me, I couldn't dance for 15 rounds no more. My legs weren't the same. My speed wasn't the same, so I had to do something crazy, something nobody expected, something that scared my own cornermen. I had to lean on the ropes and let George Foreman, the destroyer, hit me with everything he had. But before I could do that in the ring, I had to do it in my mind. That weak man inside, he was screaming, "This is suicide, move, run, survive." Fear, talking loud. Because that's what the weak man does. He projects fear. He shows you the worst outcome. He makes danger look bigger than it is. But you know what I'd learned? The weak man speaks loudest right before your breakthrough, right before your victory, right before you become who you were meant to be. So I laid on those ropes. And George hit me. Oh, he hit me with shots that would have hospitalized most men. Shots that would have ended careers. My cornermen were screaming, "Move, champ, get off the ropes." They didn't understand, nobody understood except me. Because I'd trained for this, not just my body, but my will. I learned to work under tiredness, to function under pain, to stay calm when the weak man panics. See, I knew something about George that George didn't know about himself. I knew that if I could make him throw everything he had for 7 rounds, if I could survive his best, he'd burn out. All that power, all that rage, all that destruction would burn him out. And that's exactly what happened. Round after round, George threw bombs. And round after round, I absorbed them, slipped them, caught them on my arms, on my elbows, and I talked to him the whole time. That all you got, sucker? My grandmother hits harder than you. I had to keep talking because if I stopped, he'd know I was hurt. The weak man wanted me silent, wanted me scared. But I kept talking because that's how you defeat fear. You talk back to it. You don't let it silence you. 8th round, George is exhausted. All that power, all that rage, burned out. His arms are heavy, his legs are tired, and I come off those ropes and knock him out. The impossible becomes possible not because I was stronger than George Foreman, because I was stronger than the fear inside me, because I'd trained my will to be stronger than my circumstances, because the weak man didn't control me no more. Years later, they told me I had Parkinson's disease, the thing I was most known for, my speed, my movement, my voice, all of it slowing down, shaking, fading, and that weak man came back with a new argument. You're finished. Your body's betraying you. You gave everything and look what you got, a disease that takes away your gifts. But here's what I learned. The weak man never dies. He just changes his argument. When you're young, he says you're not ready. When you're old, he says you're too late. When you're sick, he says you're finished. But the same discipline that made me champion? That same discipline helps me live with dignity now. I don't count the things I lost, I count the battles I won. And the biggest battle ain't against Parkinson's, it's against feeling sorry for myself. It's against bitterness. It's against that voice that says, why me? The weak man inside wants you focused on what you can't control. The champion focuses on what he can, and I can still control my spirit. I can still control my faith. I can still control how I treat people. See, the fight never ends. The opponent just changes forms. But if you've been defeating the weak man all along in the small moments, in the invisible hours, then when the big test comes, you ready? Now listen close, because this is the foundation of everything I'm about to teach you. Champions aren't made in gyms. Champions are made from something they have deep inside them, a desire, a dream, a vision. You can have all the talent in the world. You can have the best trainers, the best facilities, the best conditions, but if the man inside you is weak, you're gonna lose. Not to your opponent, to yourself. I've seen fighters with half my talent beat fighters with twice their talent. You know why? Because the will was stronger than the skill. The man inside was stronger than the man outside. See, everybody's focused on the external battle. They want to know, how do I beat this opponent? How do I overcome this obstacle? How do I achieve this goal? But they got it backwards. The external battle is just a reflection of the internal one. You can't beat nobody out there until you beat the man in here. You can't discipline your circumstances until you discipline yourself. You can't control your life until you control your mind. The weak man inside, he's the real opponent. He's the one saying, tomorrow, when it's easier, when you feel like it. He's the one turning discipline into negotiation. He's the one making you break promises to yourself. But here's the truth. Every promise you break to yourself makes the weak man stronger. Every time you hit snooze instead of getting up, he grows. Every time you choose comfort over growth, he gains power. And every time you do what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, you take that power back. You shrink him. You show him who's really in charge. This is the work nobody wants to do. Because it's invisible. It don't get applause. It don't get recognition. It happens in the dark. Alone. When nobody's watching. But that's where champions are made. Not in the moments of victory, in the moments of choice. The moment you choose discipline over desire, purpose over pleasure, your future over your feelings. See, the weak man wants you to think strength is natural, that some people just got it and some don't. But that's a lie. Strength is built, will is trained, discipline is practiced every single day. I fought men more skilled than me. I fought men stronger than me. I fought men with longer reach, harder punch, better training, but I never fought a man with stronger will. Because here's what I learned. Skill will carry you to the door, but will is what walks you through it. You know how many fighters I've seen with all the talent in the world? Beautiful technique, power, speed. But when that first real adversity hit, when they got hurt, when they got tired, when they got behind, they quit. The weak man took over. Skill without will is just potential. It's just possibility. It's what could be, but never will be. But will can overcome almost any skill gap. Will is what kept me on those ropes against Foreman. Will is what stood me in front of the government. Will is what got me through 3.5 years of exile and came back to win the title again. See, the weak man wants you focused on what you lack. I don't have the talent. I don't have the resources. I don't have the connections. All excuses, all lies. What you need ain't out there, it's in you. But you gotta build it. You gotta train it like you train your body. How do you train your will? Same way you train anything. You stress it, you push it, you make it work when it don't want to. Every time you do something you don't want to do, that's a rep for your will. Every time you keep a promise to yourself when it's hard, that's building your will. Every time you choose long-term gain over short-term pleasure, you're making the will stronger than the weak man inside. Most people think willpower is something you either got or you don't. That's the weak man talking. Will is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The more you let it rest, the weaker it gets. So, stop waiting to feel motivated, stop waiting to feel ready, stop waiting for the perfect conditions. That's the weak man's strategy. Wait until it's easy. But easy don't build nothing. Easy don't create champions. Easy creates regret. You want to know what creates champions? Doing what you said you'd do when you don't feel like doing it. Keeping promises to yourself when it's hard. Working when you're tired. Pushing when you're discouraged. That's what builds will. That's what defeats the weak man. Now let me tell you about the real secret. People used to watch me train and think they understood. They saw me run 3 miles and thought that's the secret. They saw me hit the heavy bag and thought that's what made him great. But they didn't understand the real secret. I don't start counting until I start hurting. When I'm doing my exercises, I don't start counting till I start paining. And the minute I start paining, I keep pushing under that pain. Then the next day, after I rest, it might take 20 sit-ups instead of 10 to give me a cramp. Later, it might take 30. That's the work that counts. Not the first 3 miles, the fourth one. Not the first 10 sit-ups, the ones that come after your muscles are screaming. Because here's what nobody tells you. Life don't test you when you're comfortable. Life tests you when you're exhausted, when you're hurt, when you're tired, when you got every excuse to quit. What counts in the ring is what you can do after you're exhausted. The same is true of life. So if you only work when you feel good, you're training yourself to be weak. You're teaching yourself that when things get hard, you quit. You're programming the weak man to take control. But if you train yourself to work through pain, to push past exhaustion, to function when you're tired, you're building something most people never build. You're building unbreakable will. See, the weak man's got a trick. He'll let you work when it's easy. He'll let you make progress when you're motivated. But the second it gets hard, the second you're tired, discouraged, hurt, he takes over. Unless you've trained for that moment. That's why I ran myself to exhaustion every day. Not just to build my legs, to build my will. So that when I got to the 15th round and my whole body was screaming for rest, I'd be used to working under that tiredness. I'd push myself on the road so that no matter how hard my fight was, I wouldn't get as tired in the ring as I did out there running. You want to defeat the weak man inside you? Stop doing what's easy, stop doing what's comfortable, start doing what hurts. Because pain is just weakness leaving the body. Discomfort is just the old you dying so the new you can live. Every person who quit on their dreams quit at the same moment, when it stopped being fun and started being painful. When motivation ran out and discipline had to carry them. When the weak man showed up and they didn't have the strength to tell him no, but you can build that strength every single day. In small ways that nobody sees, but that'll determine everything. Now, let me tell you something they really don't want you to know. Your comfort zone is a prison, a beautiful prison, with a comfortable bed and familiar walls, but a prison nonetheless. And the weak man inside you? He's the warden. He's the one whispering, "Stay here. It's safe here. You're comfortable here." But comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort is where dreams go to die. Comfort is where you trade what you could be for what feels good right now. When I was training for fights, I had to die to so many things. I had to die to staying up late. I had to die to eating what I wanted. I had to die to pleasure when my body craved it. I had to die to comfort every single day. For 6 weeks before a fight, I lived like a monk. No sex, no sugar, no staying up late, no comfort. Every desire that rose up in me, I had to put to death. And I'll be honest with you, the first week is tough. Your body's screaming, your mind's negotiating. The weak man's talking loud, just one time. Just this once, you deserve it. But if you can keep it up, if you can stay disciplined through that first week, something changes. You get to a point where you don't miss it. Then you start getting stronger, your timing comes in, your eyesight sharpens, your rhythm clicks, everything starts coming natural. See, what you thought you needed, you didn't need. That comfort you thought you couldn't live without, you're living without it, and you're stronger for it. This is the secret they don't teach. Every comfort you sacrifice makes you more powerful. Every easy thing you give up makes the hard things easier. Because you're training yourself. You're showing yourself, I don't need perfect conditions to be excellent. I don't need to feel good to do good. I don't need comfort to have courage. The weak man lives and dies in his comfort zone. But the champion? The champion learns that on the other side of comfort is everything he ever wanted. Your purpose is waiting for you outside your comfort zone. Your greatness is waiting outside your comfort zone. The person you're meant to be is waiting outside your comfort zone. But you gotta die to get there. You gotta die to sleeping in. Die to eating whatever you want. Die to doing only what feels good. Die to listening to the weak man's voice. And here's what most people never understand. That death ain't permanent, it's daily. Every single morning you gotta die to comfort. Every single day you gotta choose purpose over pleasure, because the weak man don't die once he resurrects every morning with a new argument. You worked hard yesterday, you deserve rest today. You've been disciplined all week. One day won't hurt. You're doing better than most people. Why push so hard? All lies. All the weak man trying to get back in control. But the champion knows, the war never ends. You just get better at winning it. Now, you want to know what really defeated the weak man inside me? It wasn't discipline alone. It wasn't will alone. It was faith. When God is with you, no one can defeat you. And I mean no one, not even yourself. See, the weak man operates on fear. Fear of failure. Fear of pain. Fear of judgment. Fear of the unknown. Fear is his weapon, his power, his kingdom. But faith is bigger than fear. Faith is the light that makes fear disappear. When I stood in front of the government and refused that draft, it wasn't just willpower, it was faith. I put all my faith in God, and in return, He filled me up with courage and strength. I knew that if I did what was right in the sight of God, the outcome was His to handle, not mine. When I got stripped of my title and didn't know if I'd ever fight again, it wasn't just hope keeping me going, it was faith. A pure and confident belief that in the end, even if it meant going to jail, I would be all right. The weak man wants you focused on outcomes. What if you fail? What if you lose? What if it doesn't work? All fear, all doubt. But faith says, I'm not doing this for the outcome, I'm doing this because it's right. I'm doing this because it's what I'm called to do. I'm doing this because the God who put this desire in my heart didn't put it there to watch it die. See, when you got faith, the weak man loses his power because his whole strategy is built on fear. But faith is fearless not because it don't know danger, but because it knows something bigger than danger. People think faith is just believing in good outcomes. Nah, faith is trusting God even when the outcome looks bad. Faith is knowing that even if you lose everything the world values, you can't lose what God values: your soul, your integrity, your truth. The weak man wants you to protect yourself, to play it safe, to choose security over purpose. But faith says, I'd rather stand with God and fall than compromise and win. And here's the miracle. When you stand with God, you don't fall. You might get knocked down, you might lose everything temporary, but you don't fall. Because underneath you is something stronger than the ground. It's the hand of God. Let me tell you what life really is. It's a race. Not against other people, against the person you were yesterday. And the weak man's trick? He wants you to stop running. He wants you to think, I've done enough. I've come far enough. I can coast from here. But the race can never stop. The will can never retire, and faith can never weaken. Why? Because the moment you stop growing, you start dying. The moment you stop pushing, you start sliding backwards. The moment you think you've arrived, you've already started leaving. I won the heavyweight championship 3 times. You know how many fighters in history have done that? 1. Me. You know why? Not because I was more talented, because I never stopped running. After they took my title, most people would have given up. I already proved myself. I already made history. Why go through this again? That's the weak man talking. He wants you satisfied, he wants you comfortable, he wants you sitting down, but champions know the race ain't over till you stop breathing. Every day is a new round. Every morning is a new opponent. And that opponent is the same one you faced yesterday, the weak man inside you. So you outrun him. You outrun the people who quit when they feel discomfort. You outrun the people who stop because of despair. You outrun the people who are delayed because of prejudice. You outrun the people who surrender to failure. You outrun the opponent who loses sight of the goal. Because if you want to win, the will can never retire, the race can never stop, and faith can never weaken. This ain't motivational talk. This is survival. This is the difference between living your purpose and living with regret. This is the difference between defeating the weak man and becoming him. Now I'm going to give you the practical steps, the things you do starting tomorrow. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. Here's your first practice, and it starts tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., not 5:15. Not when you feel like it. 5 a.m. sharp. Why 5 a.m.? Because that's when the weak man is strongest. That's when your bed feels like heaven and the world feels cold and dark. That's when every part of you wants to stay comfortable. So that's exactly when you got to get up. Set your alarm across the room, so you got to physically get up to turn it off. And when that alarm goes off, you got 3 seconds. 3 seconds before the weak man starts talking. 3 seconds before the excuses come. 3 seconds to move your body out of that bed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move. Don't think. Don't negotiate. Don't check your phone. Move your body. Because motion creates emotion. Action beats thought. Discipline beats motivation every single time. Once you're up, you do something physical. Run. Walk. Push-ups. Something that tells your body, I'm in control here. Not comfort. Not feelings. Me. Do this for 7 days straight. No excuses, no negotiations. No, I'll start Monday. Because here's what you're really doing. You're teaching the weak man that he don't run this life no more. You're taking back power. You're building will. And after 7 days, you'll notice something. That voice gets quieter. Getting up, gets easier. Not because the circumstances changed, because you changed, because you're stronger. Now here's your second practice. Every day, I want you to do something that makes you uncomfortable, something that causes pain. Physical pain or mental pain don't matter, but you gotta push into discomfort. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's a cold shower. Maybe it's a difficult conversation. Maybe it's working on that project you've been avoiding. But here's the key. Don't start counting until it starts hurting. If you're doing push-ups, the first 10 don't count. Only the ones that come after you want to quit, those are the ones building strength. If you're running, the first mile don't count. Only the miles that come after you're tired, those are the ones building will. If you're working on your dream, the hours you feel motivated don't count. Only the hours you work when you're exhausted, discouraged, when the weak man's talking loud, those are the hours that create champions. This practice teaches you something critical. Comfort builds nothing. Pain builds everything. The weak man wants you to stop when it feels hard. The champion knows that's exactly when the real work begins. Do this every single day. Push past the point where you want to stop. Train yourself to function in discomfort, because life is going to test you when you're tired, hurt, and discouraged. And if you only work when you feel good, you've already lost. For the next 30 days, I want you to die to one comfort. Pick something you love, something you enjoy, something the weak man don't want you to give up. Maybe it's sugar, maybe it's social media, maybe it's staying up late, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's complaining. Whatever it is, you're going to sacrifice it for 30 days. Not because it's evil, but because you're training your will. You're showing yourself, I don't need this to be happy. I'm in control. I choose my purpose over my pleasure. The first week will be hard. Your body will crave it. Your mind will negotiate. The weak man will say, just once won't hurt, but you stay strong, you stay disciplined. And around day 7 or 8, something shifts. You stop missing it. You start feeling stronger. Your timing comes in. Your clarity sharpens. Why? Because every time you sacrifice a comfort, you're making a deposit in your will account. You're building strength for the moment when everything's on the line and comfort is screaming and purpose requires sacrifice. At the end of 30 days, you can choose to bring it back or not. But you'll know something powerful. You're stronger than your cravings. You're bigger than your comfort zone. The weak man don't control you. Every single night before you go to sleep, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Get a journal. Write this down. Question 1. Did I do what I said I would do today? Not what you felt like doing, not what was easy, what you committed to. Because every promise you keep to yourself makes the weak man weaker. Every promise you break makes him stronger. Question 2. Did I choose purpose over pleasure today? At least once. In one moment. Did you do the hard thing instead of the easy thing? Did you choose growth over comfort? Did you push through when you wanted to quit? Question 3. Am I closer to my goal than I was yesterday? Not miles closer, just one step. Because the race never stops. Progress never sleeps. And if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. Answer these questions honestly. If you kept your promises, acknowledge it. If you broke them, don't beat yourself up, just commit to doing better tomorrow. This practice does something powerful. It makes you conscious. It makes you aware of the war that's happening inside you. It shows you where the weak man is winning and where you're winning. And awareness is the first step to change. You can't defeat an enemy you can't see. But once you see him, once you watch his patterns, his tactics, his tricks, you can beat him. Do this every night for 30 days and watch your life transform. Not because the circumstances changed, because you changed, because you learned to defeat the weak man inside you. So let me bring this home. The weak man inside you, he ain't your enemy because he's evil. He's your enemy because he's comfortable. He wants you safe when you should be brave. He wants you quiet when you should speak. He wants you small when God made you for greatness. But here's what I learned through every fight, every loss, every victory, every struggle. You got the power to defeat him. Not someday, right now, today. It starts with one decision. One morning you get up when you don't feel like it. One meal you control when you want to indulge. One moment you choose courage when fear is screaming. That's how you defeat the weak man, one choice at a time. One morning at a time. One moment at a time. See, people think change is this big dramatic thing. Nah. Change is small decisions repeated consistently. Champions aren't made in one moment of glory, they're made in 1,000 invisible moments of discipline. And I'll tell you something else, this fight never ends. The weak man don't die once. He comes back with new arguments, new excuses, new fears. But that's okay. Because you don't need to kill him once, you just need to beat him today. And then wake up tomorrow and beat him again. That's the secret to greatness. Beat the weak man today, every day, until one day you look up and realize you're not who you used to be. You're stronger, braver, more disciplined, more powerful. And the dreams that seemed impossible, they're in your hands. The life you wanted, you're living it. The person you were meant to be, you became him. So here's my word to you, from someone who faced the hardest opponents God ever made inside the ring and inside myself. The fight that determines your life ain't the one everybody sees. It's the one nobody sees. The one in the dark. The one at 5 a.m. The one when you're tired and hurt and every part of you wants to quit. That's where champions are made. That's where you defeat the weak man inside you. That's where you become truly undefeated. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off and that voice says stay in bed, I want you to remember something. The same discipline that made me champion is available to you. The same will that stood me in front of the government can stand you in front of your fear. The same faith that carried me through exile can carry you through anything. You got greatness inside you. But it's buried under comfort, under excuses, under the weak man's voice. Time to dig it out. Time to fight for it. Time to become who you were meant to be before fear taught you to play small. Defeat the weak man inside you and become undefeated in life. If this hit you where you needed to hear it, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button because I got more truth to share with you. Truth that'll wake you up. Truth that'll push you forward. Truth that'll help you become the champion you were born to be. Leave a like if this resonated, and drop a comment telling me, what's the one comfort you're going to sacrifice? What's the one area where the weak man's been winning that you're going to take back? Because when you make that commitment public, you make it real. Remember, champions aren't made in gyms, they're made inside, and you got everything you need to become one. Now get off this video and go defeat the weak man inside you.